build yourself back up. You only really have one. People say you have multiple heartbreaks, and that may be true, but you only have one big bad heartbreak, you know. Now today, I mean, we're using the theme loosely. So, because, for example, some people have big bad ex stories that they can't tell stories about because they're not very dramatic, and they're just like, they would just sit on the microphone and meet for 5 minutes. So if you have a funny or entertaining or dramatic story that has to do with an ex that's not your big bad ex, please feel free to do that. But how this works is there's a hat here. See it? And there's some paper. So if you want to come tell a story, please write your name on the paper and then put it in the hat, and then I'll pick the name out of the hat, and then you'll come up on stage and you have 5 minutes to tell the most amazing big bad ex story you can. And everyone's gonna get drunk while we do it, so it's fantastic. So, like I said, if you're here with your friends, feel free to keep talking and eating. For those of you here, let's all tune in. Since the dawn of time, the host of a storytelling night begins the night by telling his own story, or her own story, because we're gender inclusive here at the So I guess I'll start. Let's see. I met my big bad ex when I was 17 and 1/2 years old. I had moved from the Philippines to the States, to New York, to study in college, and I had come out of the closet and burned it to the ground. I was like ready to go. I was raring to go, man. The closet was raised. And I was a French minor, and I won this like book award, which is like, yay, you're the best French student, so you get a book. And I walked into the Department of French, and I opened it up, and the secretary of the Department of French was like the most, he looked like Prince Eric from Little Mermaid.
Okay.
Like black hair, blue eyes, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? You were the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen. And then like we were talking because he had to give me the book, which was called The Misanthrope. It was amazing. And he was like, oh, sign here, please. And I signed, and he was like, I really like your signature. And I was like, thanks, I've been practicing. And I was like, I really like your tie, and we were in love. Like that was it. That was the interaction. Yun pala. So that thus began like this fucking like Bronte novel of a relationship, you know, where we were just hurling ourselves at each other, and I was feeling all of the feels, and I was writing so much bad poetry every night. Just so much, like finding metaphors that 7,000 other poets had used, and being like, yes, finally I know how to describe these unique feelings, and you know, like reading them to my friends and them being like, yeah, that sounds great. And, like it was horrible, and but I was so in love, and I really firmly let everything go and just bought into the idea that love is something that comes in and plugs all of your holes. You know, like you go through life and you're consistently sort of like bleeding. and you think that this one big lover is going to come and he's going to be the yin to your yang. He's going to be the other half, right? And he's going to like plug the hole, and you're going to be great forever. No pun intended. No sexual pun intended there with the plugging of the hole. But it turns out people don't work that way. We're not jigsaw puzzles. Like, people are people, and they mess you up sometimes. And this one time, so what had happened was we met, and we went on a couple dates, and they were the best dates of my life because they were the first 2 dates I've ever been on. And we had the talk, and I was like, I think I'm starting to like feel some feelings for you. And he was like, that's fascinating because I have a boyfriend. And I was like, oh, cool, let's just be friends. And then we tried that for a month, and it was horrible. And so he broke up with his boyfriend, and I was like, now true love is gonna step in, you know, with like a lion that I can ride to the sunset. And he thought that too, and we tried it out. And then it became clear to me that he was still with his ex, like over months, and it just went on for months and months and months. But how it became clear is really funny because it coincided with the first time I'd ever smoked weed. Hypothetically, because I don't smoke weed and no one should ever smoke weed, but I'm just kidding, I totally smoke weed. And this is the very first time. So, for those of you who have smoked weed, imagine the first time that you ever smoked weed. And for those of you who don't, I'll explain it to you. Your skin bursts into flame, and everything becomes hyper intense, and you hear everything like it's echoing through a cavernous chamber, and all of the voices that you ever quelled just burst up into your mind, right? So imagine that, and I'm on this date with this guy, and we eat Japanese food, and I drink sake for the first time, and I hated it. And then we go back to his apartment, and we're like making out on his couch, and I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm just like, well, I think, it's okay that you're licking my face, that's fine, I guess. And then he breaks away, and he's like, do you want to smoke some weed? And I'm like, I don't really smoke, okay, thanks, and then immediately my eyes it's like, you don't love me. I can tell from your minuscule hand gestures, meanwhile, and then he puts on Requiem for a Dream, which is the best date movie ever. And, it's about heroin addiction and double-sided dildos. So we're watching Requiem for a Dream, and I'm stoned, and his roommate is playing Counter-Strike in the living room, and he's trying to make out with me, and so we start making out, and then I was a virgin at the time, and I decided, I was like, well, premarital sex might be a sin, but true love conquers all fear. I was like, let's just do it, let's just make it happen, So I was like, Alex, meanwhile his roommate is playing Counter-Strike actively next to us. And I'm like, Alex, I think that you're the one, and I think I want to give myself to you tonight, And he was like, cool, man. So we turn off Requiem for a Dream and go into his bedroom, and we're hooking up, and the clothes come off, and I'm stoned, so I'm electric, right? Every time he touches me, I'm like, what's happening? Skin is the weirdest thing, And we start getting a little bit, the petting gets heavy. And then he stops and is like, I feel like I should let you know that my boyfriend and I aren't technically broken up. And I immediately started to cry. I immediately was like, what? And then I started to cry, and then he kissed me, and then I vomited all over his bed and passed out. And I came to with him dialing 911 because he thought that because I was drunk and stoned for the first time in my life, and I had a panic attack. It's not a good combination. I don't recommend it. And I passed out in my vomit on his bed, and I woke up to him calling 911, and I stopped it, and then I think I said, I love you, don't leave me. And then he brought me home in a cab. That's my big bad ex story.
Oh my God.
Roosevelt Hotel, which is a very nice LA hotel. It has a pool, it has a bar, it has lots of bungalows next to the pool where other people should be hanging out, like Kim Kardashian, not myself and my friends. So I go to the bathroom and I come back, and all of my friends who had previously been at this bungalow are gone. I have completely just lost them. I had made an appointment with the bartender to see him after his shift, which was quite, I thought, he had a beard, he was really cute, he was I was pretty excited about that. And I'm feeling pretty confident. I come back by the pool, and all my friends are gone from the bungalow. No one is there. And I'm standing there in sheer leopard print and fringe, as one does on a Saturday in LA. And I'm looking very lost and helpless, and through the crowd comes this Frenchman. he like saunters up with his like bohemia hat and like Frenchman like hair out of his shirt, and he's like, "Ah, baby, what are you doing here on the dance floor by yourself?" I don't know. What am I doing here by myself? I have no idea. And he's like, "Let me buy you a drink. You'll find your friends." And I'm like, "Okay, let's go." Like buying drinks with the new Frenchman, with the bartender I just made a date with after his shift. And I'm like, "Whatever, Steve, I don't care about you. I've got Laurent, you know." So this starts the saga of me and Laurent, and I'm very superstitious about the universe. And so I'm in LA, and just 3 blocks away from the Roosevelt Hotel is where my ex-boyfriend's friends live. And I'm in LA for a couple of days, and I'm like, that'd be so weird if I like ran into his friends when I'm in LA. That'd be so weird. Like I'm looking over my shoulder the whole time. But I don't run into his friends, and I don't run into my ex-boyfriend. Instead, I run into Laurent, and I'm like, it's a sign. I was meant. There's only 2 possible ways that LA could have gone. I could have run into my ex-boyfriend, or I could have met Laurent. You know. So in my mind, I'm like, this is meant to be. The next day, Laurent calls me. We meet in the park, and he brings me gifts from the Mexican market. He brings me Guatemalan wish dolls and like a dream catcher and like a mirror, which I'm not sure if he bought all in the same place or like if it was like different parts of different adventures from the day. But whatever, he was, he was Laurent. So we have a magical night together after the gift giving, after the other things that have happened. And I go back to Florida, he goes back to Paris. It's tragic. It's tragic. There's a midnight goodbye by a taxi, my luggage goes in the trunk, there's kisses, there's promises of futures and all these things. And I go back to Florida, and for 2 weeks he's texting me incessantly. Come to Paris. Baby, come to Paris, I'll do with you, I'll take you dancing in the streets, I will take you to the Eiffel Tower, I will serve you the best meals and blah, blah, blah. And after 2 weeks of this, I'm like, yeah, he has an apartment, he has a scooter, and he seems to have a job. Like, that's the best offer I've gotten in a really long time. So I change my flights. I'm supposed to go from Florida to New York to San Francisco to Manila, and I reroute from Florida to Cleveland, which has a nonstop flight to Paris, apparently. I don't know who in Ohio, if you've ever met anyone, is going directly from Cleveland to Paris, but there is such a flight. So I'm on that flight. I get to Paris, I arrive, I'm so excited, and we're kissing in the airport, it's amazing, and he's like, I'm gonna take you to the best breakfast in Paris. And I've just arrived from America, and he takes me to an American diner in Paris, and I'm like, okay. And he's like, have you ever had Eggs Benedict? And I was like, I have, because I just arrived from America. Like, what are you talking about? And that night he's like, I will take you to the best food in Paris. Vietnamese. And I'm like, I live in the Philippines. I live in Southeast Asia. Like, why are we at a Vietnamese restaurant? Hi, Jack. Welcome, Jay. So, basically, the entire trip of Paris is like this. It's like empty promises. It's like, we're going to be eating cheese by the Seine, and instead I am like going to museums by myself. And he's not only, he complains all the time. And like, I know that French people are known for this, but like, we live in Manila and we're like on his scooter, my hair is blowing, like things are fabulous, like my fingers are in his like, French hair. And he's like, merde, Paris is so dirty. Look at this shit on the floor. And I'm like, are you talking about like the 4 nicely stacked pizza boxes next to the trash can? Because I feel like that's very civilized. Like, merde, the traffic in Paris is so bad. I'm like, are you talking about the 4 people at the stoplight? Because let me tell you about traffic in Manila. Like, this is nothing, right? Like, I can breathe in Paris. Like, look at where you are. It's amazing. And like, that wasn't the worst part. He was an actor. He was an actor. And it's not the worst part. He was also a musician. He was an actor, musician. And I had to sit at night, and while I'm in Paris, try to like edit his original works that are in English, but he doesn't speak English that well. So it's like very uncomfortable. And after 8 days of this, I finally was like, Laurent, I think I'm gonna go ahead and go to Amsterdam. So I left, and went to Amsterdam, had a fabulous time. And on the plane ride from Amsterdam back to Manila, because I had rerouted my whole trip, right? Like the only flight I could get was from Amsterdam. I'm on the plane for Amsterdam, I get on the plane, and I'm going to my seat, and there's this guy in the aisle, and I get in, and I sit down. He's kind of like dark and has this like chin strap thing and like some like diamond studs and like this cool haircut and whatever. And I sit down. And he goes, "Right, love. I'm Ramsey. I'm gonna get off the plane. Yeah, I'm not comfortable. I'm gonna get off the plane. I'm freaking out. I'm not gonna stay on the plane yet. I think they're gonna get my luggage off, love. I think they're gonna get my luggage off, aren't they?" And I'm like, "Ramsey, you need to calm down. Like, what is wrong with you? You need to calm down." And he's like, "It's not how it looks in the brochure." I'm like, "Who books a travel through a brochure anymore? Like, why are you looking at a brochure of the airlines? Like, it's weird, you know?" And he's like, "I just can't wait to get to Bali." And I was like, "This flight's going to Taipei." How did you get on this flight, Ramsey? Like, I don't understand. He's like, "Love, and I really like flying. I'm like freaking out." And he's like, "I'm really big in Greece." I'm like, "Big in what?" He's like, "I'm a DJ. I have like a #2 hit in Greece." I'm like, "That's fascinating because we're going to Asia. Like, why are you going to Asia?" And we had this conversation, and after a while he starts talking about what happened in Paris. I'm like, "I went to Paris, I went to see this guy, and I was so excited. He had so many promises, and I was going to be spun around the street in cobblestones and dresses and like, wine and champagne and cheese and all these things, and it wasn't like that, and I was so disappointed." And we're talking about it, and I said, "I feel like he was really fun when I met him in LA. He was on vacation, he was really fun. And then when I got to Paris, it's like all of his problems in his own world came down on him. And like, I really wanted to go to Paris and have fun." And oh, I forgot this detail. I got to his apartment, and there's girls' shit everywhere. Like perfume, glasses, clothes. He's like, "My ex-girlfriend didn't move out yet." And I was like, "But did she? Maybe she's like, is she like on vacation in the south of France, like conveniently? Like this looks really sketchy." And he told me, he goes, he's out of his mind at this point because he's so terrified of flying, right? And we've taken off. I buckled him into his seat. He wants to get off the flight, and then he's like, "I'll take Valium." And I was like, "Yeah, you should definitely take Valium." And he's like, "I've never taken it before." And I was like, "Take 5." Like, take 5 and start drinking would be like the recommendation that I have for you. So he did that, and as he's talking, he's telling you all this like crazy shit. He doesn't know where he's going.